The women you had a lot to do with in those years. I'd like to talk first of all about Pat Moore, who was admitted at the same time as you and who did the Barristers Admission Board course with you.
Well, Pat and I had become very friendly during the course. I think we did a lot of that course by correspondence, but we also chose, when we could manage it, to go to lectures as well. And it happened that she and I went to quite a lot of lectures, always evening lectures, and this meant you had to get the children bathed and fed or in their high chairs when the babysitter arrived, and then you got in the car and drove to the university. So it wasn't easy to go to the lectures, but both of us did and became very, very friendly. And then I think about twice a year they'd have courses up at the university, sort of weekend courses to go through all the material. And we went to those and became very friendly. I'd sometimes go to her house to study. She'd sometimes come to mine. And when the time came, what were we going to do when we graduated, we tossed it around. And again, this question of, well, should we go and become a solicitor for a while and get some experience, or should we dive into the bar? One of my main motivations was that my father was still at the bar and would only be there for a couple more years. He had to retire at 70. And he was so highly liked and respected that I felt that that would be a real advantage. And if I waited until he'd retired, I wouldn't have that same advantage. And Pat also thought, OK, well, if I was going, she'd come too. And it worked out well for both of us.
She had previously been a pharmacist, I understand.
Yes, she was a pharmacist. I think she got honours in her pharmacy course. She was a very, very bright person. I think she had an academic post at Sydney University. A professor had offered her some other post, but she decided to do the law course. And when she came to the bar, the pharmacy background was a great help. She did a lot of patent work and involving a lot of chemistry.
She also, I believe, later on became a senior member of the Administrative Appeals Tribunal.
She did. And I think they did patent appeals too, so she would have been very useful there.
Did she actually talk shop with you much about what she felt the atmosphere at the bar in those days was like?
Oh, we all compared it. Yes, we did. I remember one of the early barristers that I got a lot of assistance from was Jane Matthews, who ultimately became Justice Matthews. She, I think, was admitted a couple of years before me, and she was a great support as well.
Francine Ruggiero was admitted the year before you, and I believe worked part-time doing mentions at the bar.
Yes, Francine concentrated on family law, and she worked to help out Basil Hogan, who also became a judge later. And Francine had a family, I think, and she would come in Mondays and Fridays, which were mention days. So she'd do applications, adjournments, mentions on Mondays and Fridays, and really take a huge load from Basil Hogan.
Francine's father was John Ruggiero, who was a very well-known Newcastle solicitor. And I must admit, it got me thinking, quite a number of women who came to the bar did have connections in the law. They had family connections or predecessors. How important do you think that was for early women at the bar in terms of, I suppose, getting through those initial stages of getting used to the culture, all that kind of thing?
Well, speaking from my experience, it was hugely important. Also, if you'd been brought up in a family where there was a legal person, you knew what it was all about. Inevitably, whoever is, whatever the profession is, it gets talked about at home, and you'd have an interest in it. Look at doctors. Doctors produce more doctors, and I think lawyers are much the same. And the assistants when you get to the bar, and it's the old school tie thing anyway. But maybe it's for women, it's the old school scarf, or having a relative is a huge help, or was a huge help.